4. Okay, it's live now. I was doing a countdown just to be silly, but it's live. We actually got one more person joining us, so we're just going to hang out for a minute. But today, instead of just me, because hey, why is it fun if it's just me? You get Doug along with me, who is the uh, guy who runs operations for my social media company, which is One for All Social, and Doug's been with it kind of since we were about a year old. So you're technically our oldest employee besides the founders. So you've been around and putting up with us forever. But today, and one of the things I wanted to do in the new year, because on all my channels I talk about kind of creative pursuits, and more importantly, I talk about science and engineering and math and all that stuff, is I wanted to do a deeper dive into social media and these dreaded algorithm things that everybody talks about. And why it's important to understand those algorithms and look at the differences in between platforms, because you can have one message in 5 platforms and you have to craft that message a little bit differently for each one. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere because of those silly algorithms. So we built a tool for that called One for All Social. And Doug is the one that sits through it with all of our social media managers and gives them walkthroughs and helps and pokes and prods and everything else as people come along the way to kind of learn the ropes, and even gives advice on how to improve performance. And speaking of our social media managers, we have one right here. Hey, Emily, how are you?
Great. How are y'all?
Great. So thanks for joining us. We're live out to 3 different platforms. So I'm going to try to watch for comments as they come up. If anybody has comments or questions, feel free to post them. I see them faster if you do it through the YouTube channel than I do if I see what you're doing for anywhere else. So, if you want to post questions that we can try to answer live, it's there. So Emily runs social media for a variety of groups, right? Not just C5. You run a couple?
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today was the differences in between the platforms and how you can put one message on X. I have finally stopped calling it Twitter. I managed to do that. And versus LinkedIn versus Instagram versus Facebook, and why all that matters. So what I was going to do was kind of use our system and craft a post and let you guys kind of help you guys look at it and give me advice on how you think I should craft that post for the different platforms. And we kind of go through it live because, and we'll just kind of talk through why those differences are out there and what the heck we're talking about here. So it's sometimes, you could talk all day, but showing people sometimes works a lot better.
Sure.
Although I will tell you this, I used to teach at a university, as you guys know. I'm not sure all the people that follow me know, but some people were picking on me on X last night saying, well, just because you used to teach. I'm like, hey, look, I worked in a lab and nothing in my lab was that. Everything in my lab was fine. Nothing exploded that wasn't supposed to. And some people are like, that's not comforting. But here's the fun part. Everything that was supposed to explode did. So it worked out. And I think that was the not comforting part. So anyway, One for All Social. Here's what we're here for. We built this thing over the last couple of years, and it is now very available for use. It's in both the app stores, but that's not what we're here to talk about. What this system will let you do is post to a bunch of different platforms at the same time. And now it will let you actually alter your post for each individual platform. And we're going to do that sort of live across at least 4 of them and craft a post so that each one of these platforms gets something the algorithm there actually cares about. So, I tell everybody that will listen to me that if you want to have a post that's successful, you can have all the text in the world you want and it can be interesting. But if you don't have an image, you're killing yourself. You guys.
Yeah, it's pretty important, right? We're visual we're visual beings as it exists. So at least an image, and folks are really leaning more towards video these days as well. But yeah, I would say bare minimum an image, if not multiple images. And some platforms will let you do both video. Actually, one platform will let you do both video and image, Instagram. But take that into account with your message and what you're trying to get across.
And that's actually about to shift because they're going to get away from actual videos and go to just reels.
Right.
So
Instagram,
videos is part of the post. Are actually going to go away sometime this year. I don't remember when. So I prepared an image, and one thing I will tell you is that image quality really matters, and it matters in like a really weird way. if you can upload an image, any image you want, obviously, but a good picture goes a lot further than a bad picture, right? So if you upload something that's grainy and bad, it's not great. So one of the things I've been doing on my accounts, because I read a lot, is I've been posting a lot of pictures of older books, because some of the cover art is pretty interesting. And my kids and I spent a lot of time in art museums. So I prepared an image, and what I did was I actually took an image of the book, threw it into Photoshop for a minute, pulled the book out, threw a black background on it, and kind of adjusted for glare. And I think it produces a much better image than if you just take a picture of the book up against your computer or something. So you've got this nice black background, so it kind of stands out, and it lets you crop for Instagram. And you'll notice, our platform gives you this nice preview over here, and more about that in a second. But with this system, at least, you get to go off and say, hey, look, let me enter, a quick description, and we can edit it by platform in a minute, which is pretty important. Forgotten Realms. Oops. Nobody ever said I could spell, right?
What's those letters, whatever. Emily, like, you found that too, like I know you get content from a bunch of different folks, but you've kind of instructed them on their imagery to make sure they get good high quality images. And if they're putting something together like in Photoshop or Canva or whatever, to make sure that font sizes are big enough to be read, not too much text is baked into an image.
Too much text is a huge thing, and making sure, obviously, definitely, that the quality is, the resolution is correct is super important.
Yeah, and one thing I've seen people make big mistakes is they'll put all this text in an image, which is not searchable by the different algorithms, and then they'll put almost nothing in the post. Right. So you've got a great image and it's got cool words in it, but nobody's going to see it because it's not going to show up in any search anywhere. It's just going to kind of go off by itself. Now, our system also has ChatGPT built in if you want to have it right for you. I'm not going to do that, but it has that. And you also have this little auto hashtag feature, which will let you have the system go off and find that right hashtags for you. And just pick some of the ones that you think fit, add them to the post.
Love that feature. Love that feature.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it notice also that the word illustration is nowhere in my post, but it came up with that as a hashtag, right? So it's smart enough to know that, hey, all these words kind of mean illustration, and that's a better hashtag for you to use right now than any of the others. So I'm kind of glad it came up with that one. It's an AI tool that does that. So it kind of says, hey, use all these and it'll do better. I would have never thought Brahm, but hey, Brahm, man, he's the man when it comes to art. And if you doubt my cover art names, because I can actually do that one without looking it up, but I actually have the book right here if anybody doubts me that that's actually Brahm. Cover art by Brahm right there, folks. So my kids challenged me one day. They were pulling old books out and saying, hey, Dad, who's the artist on this one? And I got 9 out of 10. I was 9 for 10. They finally got me. All right. So edit by platform, I think, is important because each one of these platforms has a different audience with different demographics, right? So Emily and Doug, what do you think the Facebook demographics are, right? So they're certainly the biggest platform out there.
I think that it's, like the older demographic. You're talking about like the age groups?
Yeah, it's age group and gender breakdown, right? And I think gender breakdown, it's kind of 50-50. It's one of those platforms that kind of sits.
Yeah, I was going to say 50-50, 55-45, leaning towards female, maybe a little bit, but yeah, definitely a split. Yeah, and age groups, I think you're right, Emily. I want to say our Gen Zers and the youngers aren't as active on Facebook as, say, maybe 35 and up. 30 and up,
Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot, I think, for sure.
So I'm going to add a few more words because Facebook gives you a little bit more character count that you can mess with than the other ones do. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in some more stuff with, hey, it's a fantastic book. The artist is one you can kind of recognize at a glance because Brahm has a very specific style that he can. You just pick him out. He's if you look at enough of these things, you're like, yeah, that's Brahm. He's one of those guys.
You get a style, you know it by sight.
Once you know him, man. He's one of those guys. He's like There's Larry Elmore. There's a few others that I've gotten to the point where I can kind of pick it out. Now, Instagram has a little bit different audience, and I think it tends a little more female. It's also massive by comparison to some of the others, right? So I saw some numbers the other day that it's like at 1.3 billion or something accounts. Is that right?
Wow, wouldn't surprise me, but.
So Emily, do you see a lot of traffic on your the people you manage? You see a lot of traffic on Instagram, or is it kind of?
No, I see the most traffic on Instagram.
Okay, so you see the most on Instagram. It's massive, and I ran some numbers the other day, and I'm like, if some people were coming at me on one of the platforms, going, "Yeah, but it's mostly bots." I'm like, if 15% of that platform is bots, you're still over 1 billion actual people, right? And from what I understand, in India, which is what almost 1.5 billion or something now in population, it's the most popular one because TikTok has been banned over there. And I'm not sure TikTok's going to survive here in the US, but we'll see. But it also is a little bit different than like Facebook because people have a tendency to focus on the images more. So I'm going to say something more about the cover art here. Brahm is an artist who started back with, in fact, I'm putting this in the wrong spot because I said the cover artist down here. So look at that. There we go. Brahm is a guy who started back with Dungeons and Dragons when it was still at TSR, and you can just recognize him at a glance. Because I think on Instagram, people like a little bit more kind of discussionary stuff, which I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
couple things I wanted to note here before you go next. You notice we still have the Chat GPT, the Write For Me feature in here. So if you wanted to just click on that real quick, Tim, you can show the people that, not the auto hashtags, but
I pushed the wrong button.
Yeah. You can actually copy your post and paste it in here and say, rewrite this post for Instagram using a different voice, and then choose your voicing down below. And so that's another way that you can tweak your post right there and then.
You can. And also you'll notice I since I'm the CTO and I get to do these things without telling people. If you look, the auto hashtag feature is actually going to pull up different stuff on different platforms because I've got it tailored a little bit to actually go off and look at that platform a little more specifically. So if you go, when you're first writing the post, if you ask for the auto hashtag, but look now, you get all kinds of different stuff. I've added a few more words, but also it's going to pull Instagram stuff more than anything else. So let's even add that one over here. And it'll add that one just for Instagram.
Yeah. And I think also what's noteworthy on that Write For Me post is that there are different options, like as far as like what kind of feel you want to give each post, which is really nice. Like, yeah.
So you can do positive and upbeat, which is important, but I was going to save that one for X in a minute here.
Friendly and personal. Exactly. Each one of these could be used. You could use a different one for each platform if you wanted to. Right? Yeah.
And that's really nice to be able to kind of have a different feel with the same wording.
Yep. I actually asked it one day to tell me some dad jokes that were humorous and funny, and I found that none of them were actually humorous or funny.
Well, in the eye of the beholder. Also below here is the option to customize like collaborations and stuff, right, for Instagram?
Yeah, so you can do the first comment on Instagram, which if you're ever going to do a link, you absolutely have to do it there, or the algorithm will bury you. And you can do collaborations. You can start as a reel. You can do all kinds of stuff. So I think it's a pretty good little system. All right, next. So Threads is the meta equivalent of Instagram. I'm sorry, of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
So you weren't calling it Twitter
anymore. I'm getting better at calling it X. Don't want to call it Twitter because it's not anymore. I just can't figure out how to say I tweeted with an X in front. It just it doesn't work. Now, the thing about Threads, and Emily, I'm not even sure if we shared this with you, it only looks at the first hashtag. And if you put anything else in there, you've just got hashtags for no apparent reason. So what I do with my Threads posts is I kind of take all the hashtags out and then I pull them up again and say, okay, whatever that top one is in our system is the one that's going to get you the most play. So it use that one, and there you go. Right. So, and I'm going to kind of leave it like this for Threads, just for the sake of leaving it like that. And then if you go over here to Twitter, now we have a little bit of space. So my character count, I've got a little bit of space left. and I'm going to put because there's a huge community on Twitter for Dungeons and Dragons. Has been with D&D since it was still TSR. And I'm going to take hashtags out for a specific reason, and we're about to fix this system wide in our system. Elon Musk no longer likes hashtags because he thinks the little pound symbol is ugly. So if you use a pound symbol on Twitter, X, sorry, Elon, I will get it. It will actually downgrade you, but the keywords actually are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and just say, okay, I'm going to put some keywords at the bottom and say, okay, now they're there without the hashtag. That way my post won't get downgraded. Now, in a week or so, we'll have it where the hashtag doesn't show up on Twitter. It just goes out without that. So for the moment, it's a manual process, but we'll have that fixed in a couple of days. Which I think goes through everything now. We've got all those platforms and we say, okay, cool. Now we can click next again. And it'll actually give you a look at a preview of what it's going to look like on each platform. And this should be pretty close to the way it actually displays when it shows up on somebody's feed. Might be a little bit different based on desktop versus iOS versus Android, but this is generally the look and feel you're going to get when the thing posts. So it gives you a chance now to kind of go back and edit again. You say, oh, I didn't quite like the way that one fell out. I kind of want to change a few things. But yeah, it lets you take a look at it. Now, Emily, I know you use this feature all the time, this schedule post feature.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is schedule this one to go off in the future. Like on the 9th or so, because I've been filling time slots with these over the last couple of days, just because I've been messing with our system. And I'm up to my first available time slot is the 9th at 2:05 p.m. So I'm going to have it scheduled to go out then. So what the system will do is let you go off and schedule these things. And it's going to schedule it on all 4 of those platforms. It's been scheduled. And then you go into our scheduler and you can actually look at your daily, weekly, or monthly stuff and see, hey, look, here's what I've got scheduled today, tomorrow, the next day. And I'd love to hear you two talk, because I've talked a whole lot. Nobody wants to listen to me anymore. I'd love to hear you two talk about the importance of staying active and scheduling things. Because, if you don't stay active, the algorithms forget about you, right? So they kind of just go by the wayside. So I will leave it to you two while I get some coffee.
Sure. Well, I mean, clearly the more it's called social media for a reason, right? Being social. So you want to be active, and we got a neat little feature in our platform that kind of helps you and tells you what type of posts and how and what your best days are. That doesn't mean only post on that day. It means, you need to stay active and you need to change your posts. Like, Emily, do you want to talk at all about like the different posts you guys schedule and put out for C5 and how it saves you time doing the scheduling as opposed to, on a daily basis?
Yes, absolutely. I can block out time in my work, during my work week to do just that. And I can go in and see what the overall best days are. And then also just what the specific times are. So, for special events that we have, or for things for the students that maybe we want them to see our C5 leaders, that they, good times on Instagram versus if we're looking to invite donors or supporters to different things. It's super helpful that I can, have that in the back of my brain for all the different platforms, and then go in and then you can just physically see everything. You can double check your, make sure everything's posted how you want it. And it's super nice and convenient.
Yeah. One thing that my wife does with her piano studio and using the social channels is she has a recurring theme of student spotlight on Tuesdays, and then she maybe does Music Mondays, and then she has basically set days of the week without going into every one of them, but where they're always a recurring theme, so that her audience gets used to it and kind of now looks forward to seeing that. And rather than setting those up the day of, just on Saturday spend a half an hour putting it all down and setting it up to schedule and off and go, right? And she's used a bit of that. Tim, I don't know if you've got me set to be able to share.
I don't know if I can. If send me a link, I'll share it.
All right, if you want to pull up analytics, all I wanted to show was in analytics where we actually allow somebody to see the the best days to post and the type of posts.
Let's go look at my anonymous art lover page, which is not all that anonymous. Actually, no, I can't. That one's too small. I apologize. Instagram will only give you analytics if you've got a certain size account. So you have to actually have enough followers, and that particular account is new. You're talking about this page?
Yeah, exactly. The insights. So it's under each platform, and again, barring that each platform gives you you have no followers for it to pull the data back. But yeah, you can see the best data post here for this account is Sunday, an image, and once a day. So in creating
you go over,
YouTube, here we go.
Now it's Monday and video and once a day, right? So, and it'll actually give you some numbers based on that and say, hey, look, what level do you really want to look at?
So in creating your schedule, this is a nice tool to lean on. That's all I'm saying.
And Instagram. I haven't posted on that Instagram account like in months, so it's not pulling any data up on that
right now, right? Yeah.
Let's go back to Threads. But yeah, it gives you a little bit of a breakdown, and you can actually pull back some audience demographics too, where you can look at, hey, where am I strong? Where am I weak? And that'll help you tailor your message. Like, hey, look, if you're thriving with men aged 35 to 44, maybe you're trying to attract other groups, maybe speak to something that those other groups might like. Or if that's the group you want, man, drive on, right?
Use the Write For Me ChatGPT feature to help you if you get stuck, right?
And I'll go off of this too, because it's nice that, like, for us, our C5 leaders are a lot on Instagram, so we can say, don't forget you have an event, but their parents are mostly on Facebook. So we can say, hey, parents, don't forget, like parents, and we don't really have to include parents in Instagram. And then so we can maybe put a flyer or like a reminder on Instagram on Facebook for our image. And then on Instagram, we can do more like of the activity pictures, what the kids have been doing. So it's like, oh yeah, I really want to go to this event, like this, I don't want to forget it. So that's nice that you can like actually see the demographics and see who you're reaching out to and truly tailor each message.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up there, Emily. Is not only you're using the analytics to feed back into your create post cycle, but in that creating of the posts, now, oh, maybe it's that single post, but maybe it's not just the message you're changing, but maybe it's these images are going to speak more to one group than to another. Like you said, in your case, it's
right, because the parents are more like the kids they are ingrained, they have the schedule, but parents, they have so many things going on that it's like, okay, when they see like the invite, the flyer, the something, they're like, who, what, when, where, why, whereas the kids are more focused on what they're going to do with their friends and, all the things they're going to learn for themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I came to a couple of your events, and I think I had to remind myself at least 14 times of when they actually were. So speaking of someone who has 3 kids, I will routinely get up in the morning and try to go, where am I supposed to be today? Right. And if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Right. So I'm glad some people like you are out there to like kind of continually remind folks, because you forget. Especially when there's 3 of them dragging you 3 different directions.
A lot to juggle, and it's exponential as you have more, from what I understand. I'm blessed with only the one.
Yeah, and you're not single.
True. And I've got a partner over here. Yeah,
you're 2-on-1, man. I'm 3-to-1. I can't even play an effective zone defense at this point. It's just kind of like
you're on your own,
outnumbered and hanging on for dear life.
Yeah. It's funny that my 15-year-old is like, how long? I can't wait to get my license. I'm like, dude, you and me both. And he started going, wait, what? That's right. You just figured it out. That means you can drive people around, not me. He's like, oh. Well,
with great power comes great responsibility.
I was just thinking that.
Exactly. He caught on really fast when I was super excited about it. So got to give him credit for that. Okay. So, but the one thing I find interesting also, and I wanted to throw this one out there because I follow it more closely than I think anybody, is algorithm shifts are continuous and they're getting crazier and faster, right? So what the algorithms like today are not going to be what the algorithms like tomorrow. And a lot of people kind of complain that, well, the algorithms are pushing me down, man. It's all the algorithms' fault. And yeah, the algorithms are looking for specific things, but if you know what things they're looking for, they're not going to push you down, right? So don't complain about them, kind of embrace it and go with, okay, I know what the algorithm is searching for. And one of the ones that's sort of becoming a bellwether, because there was an announcement, actually, I first saw it this morning, that Zuckerberg did last night or something, that he's shifting a few things on their side. But the Twitter algorithm, the X algorithm, is now highly preferential to accounts who actively engage with others. So if you like do what Joe Rogan likes to do and post what he calls post and ghost, where you post something and then disappear and you don't ever interact with anybody, it doesn't give you as much timeline placement as if you're a highly interactive or engaging account now. And it's a massive difference, right? So those accounts that aren't very engagement oriented are way downgraded. It was so much so that I had a post yesterday. Joe Manganiello actually responded to, like the guy from, all kinds of different TV shows and, you name it. But Joe Manganiello showed up in one of my posts twice. It was a Dungeons and Dragons post. Okay, I had a picture of him, so I guess it kind of helped. But it, and I did tag him. But the fact that he responded twice, I thought was pretty impressive. And he was actually helping people understand that okay, in Dungeons and Dragons, this gets a little nerdy for everybody. And Joe was exactly right. There's a big group of people in Dungeons and Dragons that have decided that paladins have to always be good. They can't be evil. And he brought up the point, Joe Manganiello did, to say, yeah, but then everybody knows the world's biggest paladin, which is a religious person who's involved in fighting. There is a giant evil one out there everybody's familiar with called Darth Vader. And I'm like, oh crap, he's right. And we all like Darth Vader. Well, not like, we all know Darth Vader and we're perfectly accepting of it. Right?
Sure.
So, but yeah, he kind of, I was like, well, man, he schooled us on that one, but he did show up in the post twice. So, those accounts are getting preferential treatment now. And you're getting big name accounts to actually respond. And respond in a big way. So like one day I was posting stuff on Twitter when it was still Twitter. And I've had some fairly big name authors actually follow me. But anyway, the point is that Twitter X is now looking for things that are positive as well. So they're actually doing a language analysis to see whether your posts are largely positive or negative. And it's actually giving preferential timeline placement to people who post positive things rather than highly negative things. Which I find interesting because a lot of social media in the last couple of years has become very negative and very argumentative. And what I'm seeing is that's actually starting to die off a bit on X, which is usually the hotbed for it. So I think those accounts are going to be downgraded a bit. And the announcement Zuckerberg had yesterday, which is floating around today in a little clickbaity article that I can show you if you want. Which I found it hilarious that it's this clickbaity, but it's actually showing up on all kinds of platforms with all kinds of, they took it down, was that Zuckerberg is doing away with fact checkers. And that was the headline of the article. When really what he's doing is he's getting rid of the algorithm does fact checking because it was stomping on people that weren't actually wrong. Okay. And what they're doing is replacing it with a community notes function that says, hey, you can post anything you want, but that any user can look at it and request a community note, just like X does now. And he actually cited the X system. So if I go out there and post that the drones seen in New Jersey are clearly of alien origin with anti-gravity drives, which I've seen that post. I'm not making that one up. I wish I was, but I've seen that post. And I requested a community note. I was like, no way, I'm not letting this one go by. So I said, please community note it. It got community noted like within minutes. It said, there's no proof these are of alien origin, blah, 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 blah. Right. So they aren't getting rid of fact checkers. They're getting rid of the automated version in favor of a community note system that is actually, I think, going to help a lot dealing with misinformation, especially when it comes to politics, which is where it usually ends up. So those algorithms are going to adjust quickly. And I'd love to hear from you two, your thoughts on where they've gone and are they getting better over time or are they just getting worse? So I'll leave you. I'll be quiet now and drink my coffee.
Well, I don't want to step on your toes, Emily, if you had thoughts on this right away.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
But, I think the worst one out there, to use the word worst, for a negativity breeding ground is probably starts with X. And then afterwards it'd probably be some instances on Instagram where you can get the cyber bullies and the bashing of people bearing their soul, so to speak. TikTok also coming in there as well. But I do think they're getting better. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. This whole idea of spreading positivity and not negativity is I think permeating throughout social media, which is good because for the longest time it's make the biggest amount of noise, make the biggest splash. It's like Alice Cooper, be a shock rocker, and you're going to get attention. So you do that with what? Negativity, with conflict, with stirring the pot, so to speak. So I'm glad to hear that these platforms, your buddy Elon there, Tim, is actually making some strides to make some changes in that. That sentiment isn't proliferated and pushed up to the top of everybody's feeds anymore. And I don't know that I'm seeing it get any better, other than people posting more positively. I don't know that the algorithms are changing just yet, but it sounds like that they're on that pathway.
Yeah, I feel like people in general on social media are tired of the negativity in general, and so it's just a shift of more like, positive, which I think is good. That's what we need. We don't need any more negativity.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, Emily, what do the algorithms care about? What do the platforms care about? I don't know that they care so much if it's negative or positive. They care about your eyeballs being on their screen and in their platform because that's how they make their ad revenue. So because what you said is true, people are tired of the negativity. The eyeballs start to drop. They stop spending so much time, and that hits them in the pocketbook. And they go, we got to change this. We need to keep our viewers. How do we do that? Okay, they want to see more positive stuff. Great. So hopefully that algorithm change that we're aware of in X is something that is happening in Meta and all the other guys, LinkedIn, etc.
So there was one other change I found out about over on YouTube. I'm going to leave you two guys with, and I'll let you guys comment on it, and then we'll call it a day because I don't want to take up everybody's whole day. YouTube has now got a new thing in its algorithm, and this is brand new. It came out somewhere in December, and I don't think it got much attention because it was December and we were all eating too much turkey. They are going to start to deprioritize and not show posts or accounts that use clickbait thumbnails, meaning if it's in the thumbnail and it's not in the video, it is now deprioritized highly. So there's really punishing people that put stuff in the thumbnail that don't show up in the video.
I knew they started that in India. I'm glad to hear they're rolling that out globally, though. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know I get that a lot when browsing just Facebook or Instagram. It's like some crazy thumbnail, or I'm like, what is this? And I click on it, and that thumbnail is nowhere to be seen in the video, nor does it relate to the topic. I'm like, okay, now I was just suckered into wasting 30 seconds to a minute of my life that I could have been doing something else with. And is it a lot of time? No, but am I annoyed? Yes.
Yeah, one of those got me the other day, and it was on Facebook. It was, the 5 worst actors to work with in Hollywood, and it had a picture of Steve Martin. And he was not anywhere in the. I was like, Steve Martin, really? Who didn't like Steve Martin? And then I click on it, and none of them were hit. I was like, you rat bastards! And none of the people in the video was a shock to me. So it was like, okay,
right. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, don't worry about it. You guys soon will be out, right? So that's
like Steve Martin, really? He's like, everybody wants to play with Steve.
Hopefully, again, Meta adapts the same approach as that Google's taking and YouTube's taking. So.
Well, I hope so. All right. You guys have anything else you want to add? If not, we'll call it a day.
No,
thanks. We're going to do more of this. Hey, how do you actually appeal to every platform, and how do you guide through the algorithms and whatnot over the rest of the year? And we're going to do some deeper dives into the science. But I kind of wanted to start with bringing people on that, understand the way to tailor for different platforms and, have experience with this. And from here on out, I can't guarantee there will be no math, but there might be math because some of the algorithms are mathematically based.
Tim's the host, so there's going to be some math at some point.
I even have a, funny math dice right behind me. Funny math rocks. Anyway. All right. Thank you guys. We'll talk soon, I'm sure. But if you want to use our platform, it's o4a.com. Right behind Doug, you can see the whole thing. I should put that as my background. I do kind of own part of the company. I should probably do that. But it's a great platform. Check it out. It's in both app stores, 60 days free with no credit card. So check it out today. We'll talk to everybody soon.
All right. Thank y'all.
Ending the stream.